and put it and formalize it and then systematize it,
Yes.
right? It's like, wait a minute, I'm a reasonable person. Why is this so hard? And it gets really frustrating. So I think that might be part of it.
Yeah. I've definitely been improving that, but I'm
Good.
just hoping I can get my grade up to more of a passing place over the next 6 weeks.
Well, so here's something to think about. In fact, the folks in the folks in the online only section kind of, I guess, or at least some people in the online only section sort of sent me an email via a representative, right? So one of the class members said, hey, we've been talking about whether or not we can take the pass fail option. And I said, well, it's no problem for me. I'll do whatever you guys want. If you want a grade, have a grade. If you want pass fail, have pass fail. But I don't know as a faculty member what I'm allowed to do or what I have the authority to do. So allowed just means more like, like what's kosher, to do. So anyway, so my department chair, so I wrote to my department chair, and my department chair said, it's actually something that the class member can initiate, and then gave me information which I passed on to the student. So I'm not saying that you want to pass fail, but what I am saying is that I know that some folks are equally concerned about their score. Here's what I can tell you. One of the things that so as soon as we get through chapter 3, which we're wrapping up today. We're going to break away from having talked about arguments in terms of the two systems of deduction, namely the categorical logic system and the natural deduction system. And we're going to focus on experiential reasoning.
Okay.
And that's chapters 4 and 5. And most of us find that material, even though we still talk about reasoning systematically, most people find that material more accessible because it just feels more like what they do every day.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So I'm feeling good about that then.
Yeah, right. Exactly, Nolan. I want you guys to feel good. Plus, please don't forget, everybody, that we have retests. So there are 2 things I want to say about the retests. No, 3 things. One of which is a reminder. My advice is don't retest, let's say, exam 1 until you have finished exam 2. And there's a reason, in my view, for that. Secondly, I'm going to I don't think I did it yet, but I'm going to make you a 3rd exam 1. So that it's not just exam 1 and 1 retest, it's exam 1 and 2 retests.
Okay.
Because I want, I want people to keep practicing with this stuff. So the 3rd thing I want to say is that on the retest front, I take your highest score. It doesn't matter which one it is. So there's no penalty. There's no drawback to you.
Good.
Right? Okay. And then the last thing I want to say is I leave some discretionary points for the following. I'm going to look at work over the course of the semester, and I'm going to look at how the discussion forums went. Was there progression, or was there a consistent set of scores? So let's say you always scored well on the discussion forums. I would say, okay, great, good for that person. If there was progression, I'm going to, in terms of elevation of scores, I'm going to say, yeah, good for that person. And I'm going to look at exam scores in terms of even though I take the best score technically, I'll look to see, hey, were they really struggling initially, and then the retest seemed to go better, that sort of thing. I'll even look at something like this. If you write the extra credit quizzes, sorry, I'm just turning my notifications off. Where is it? If you write the extra credit quizzes, that says to me that you had the initiative and the interest to attempt them. Some people, believe it or not, don't even take the extra credit quizzes. I don't know why.
I'll take all the extra credit.
Right. And so that says to me, hey, this person is, they're working it.
Yeah.
And then one other point about the extra credit quizzes, those are literally extra credit. They add on to your existing quiz scores, right? So the exams are retest, the quizzes are extra credit. So I don't stress over your score. My vote is, folks, just keep chugging away. Also, I can't stress this enough. Come see me if you have problems. It's yeah. I mean, I meet with people early in the morning. I don't meet too late at night because I'm old. I got to go to bed. But I meet people in the evening. I meet people on the weekends. I'm here for you. So, guys, if you're having trouble, even if it's the case that you say, yeah, I don't really like Mia, she's not very good, or whatever it is, I don't work for you. Just you talking through the material sometimes is helpful. Okay. So.
Thank you for giving me this reassurance and truth.
Yeah, I want to reassure you because, guys, the class mantra is if Mia can do it, anybody can do it.
Love it.
Right? No joke.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to mute now and we can do class.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted everybody to hear this. So I appreciate, Nolan, your sharing and in response to my query. And, I'm not worried about you guys. Now, just so as we're transitioning into the last bit of work that we are doing and that we kind of put off, if you're struggling, so as a reminder, you're working on your own all week, and then we meet on Friday, and we only just have time for highlights during a class meeting. So if at the end of this class meeting, given everything you've already worked on, right, you say, I'm really struggling still with the natural deduction stuff, there are two things to say to that. One is, remember, the quizzes and exams stay open all semester. While I do not advise that you let stuff pile up, if you need a little bit more time to kind of wrap your head around things, take it. It's not like the quiz is it's not like exam 2 is going to close on you. Second thing to say is this, the quizzes for the chapter 3 material in some ways are harder than the exam. So for example, what we're going to talk about today, a proof process, right, is that there are some exercises in the relevant quiz where you're asked to determine which of the completed proofs is the accurate one, is the correct one. I don't ask you that in the exam. Instead, I'm asking you to recognize valid argument forms. So the exam is actually a little bit less technical on the natural deduction front. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, we can talk more about it. Meanwhile, let's do this. So we're working today on the part of the section of chapter 3 concerned with what's known as natural deduction, and the elements of natural deduction are called, or the sentences that make up the natural deduction system are sentences that are that fall within the category of propositional logic. So let me start by making a distinction, right? So we can interpret a statement as in categorical proposition terms, and I'll give you an example, or propositional logic terms. So, for example, let's take the statement, great milk comes from happy cows. And I do want these cows to be happy. All right, so from the standpoint of a categorical proposition, as we know, we say all great milk are, or is, sorry, so used to the plural, all great milk is milk that comes from happy cows, right? So categorical proposition. Now, and you guys already know how crap my board work is. So you'll you'll know how to decipher this. All right. So for propositional logic or a propositional logic statement, we would interpret the statement in the following way. I'll give you the complete statement, and then we'll talk about the parts of it. Just like when we talked about in categorical logic, a categorical proposition consisting of quantity, quality, and terms or category relations, right? Well, in propositional logic, we're talking about simple sentences and compound sentences. That's it. That's all we got. So we would interpret the sentence this way. Oops, sorry, my if it's great milk, then, sorry about one of my pups barking, it's milk that comes from happy cows. So here's what I'd like you to think about when you're thinking about and maybe feeling overwhelmed by the symbolic logic notation and the process of translating from ordinary English into symbolic logic notation, et cetera, et cetera. Just remember, an argument consists of statements, right? When we want to interpret the statement within a specific system of logic, right, we've got a way of doing that, right? So we don't have to do that. Go all the way back to chapter 1. Remember your first discussion forum post where I said, hey, pick an argument about over the issue of whether or not women should serve in combat roles, right? And, one argument was no, women shouldn't serve in combat roles, or one argument concluded no, women shouldn't serve in combat roles. The other one said yes, they should. We didn't mess about with anything other than reformulating the sentences so that we get a coherent whole, and then restructuring the argument so that we add premises one on top of the other and then the conclusion, right? You know how to do that. When we moved into looking at categorical logic and now natural deduction, we're saying, hey, we want to not just do those things, right? Reorganize, reformulate. We want to do so within a system of logic. Okay? So now we're just looking at the second system. Okay? Both categorical logic and natural deduction are systems of reasoning that are evaluated, the systems aren't evaluated, the reasoning is evaluated. So systems of reasoning whereby the reasoning is evaluated as valid or invalid, right? So, what we're talking about is not how likely the conclusion is, but from the standpoint of a formal structure, does the conclusion, is the conclusion entailed or not? Is the argument valid or not? That's all we do. So one of the benefits of this study in the class as a whole is we start to kind of train ourselves to think systematically and sub-systematically, right? And so a certain skill set gets honed, gets sharpened in a way that it likely wouldn't otherwise. Also, doesn't matter what you guys are planning to do, whether it's law school or medical school. The sort of the skill set that we're developing is going to be incredibly useful. Journalism, doesn't matter what you're going to do. All right, so does this make sense so far? Can you read my chicken scratch? All right, I'm gonna take silence as approval. All right, so I'm gonna create a new whiteboard, and now I'm going to take our happy cows argument. So and here's what we're going to do. All right, so the elements of a propositional logic statement are as follows. We have a simple sentence or a simple statement, and we have a compound statement. Now, the symbolization, so I'll tell you what the symbolization is, then I'll tell you what the simple statement is, right? So symbolized by a capital letter A through Z. Compound statement symbolized by one or more operators. Okay, so a simple statement is a statement that does not have a connective. So here's a simple statement. Let's say Barack Obama, I'll come back to the cows, I promise, was the 44th U.S. president. Okay, lots of words in this sentence, but it's still simple. It's simple because there are no connectives, right? So now let's go ahead and make a compound sentence. Barack Obama was 44th president of the United States. So here's a simple sentence. And let me give you, I'll say the definition. I'll give you another definition, but it's a bit of a mouthful, so I'll just say it. A simple sentence is the smallest linguistic entity that has a truth value, right? So you and I know an argument consists of statements. A statement is a sentence that's true or false. So in order to be a candidate for an argument, you gotta be a statement, okay? Because arguments are aimed at establishing some truth, right? You can't have an argument that ends with the following: how are you? Therefore, how are you? That's a different game, okay? So Barack Obama was the 44th U.S. president. You've got a simple statement because there are no connectives. It is an example of sorry, I lost my way in my sentence. It is an example of a linguistic entity, right, that is true or false, that you don't further reduce without losing that truth or falsity. So, how about this, for example, in terms of number of words, the shortest simple statement is a subject and a verb, right? So suppose that we say Obama speaks, right? We've got subject, we've got verb. If you eliminate the word speaks, now you just have Obama, you've got a proper noun, and that's not a sentence. So you need a sentence, right? And it's a sentence that has a truth value, and it's a sentence that doesn't have a connective. Now, here's a compound sentence. Barack Obama was the 44th U.S. president and went to Harvard Law School. Okay, so now we've got two simple sentences. Sorry, right? So Barack Obama was the 44th U.S. president. Barack Obama went to Harvard Law School. And then here's the connective that compounds the sentence. Next example. It's not the case that Obama is the 46th president. Right? So here we have the simple sentence, Obama is the 46th president. And here we have the connective, it's not the case. I'm just going to circle not. Okay. So that's it. That's all we have. Now we have more connectives, but that's all we have in this system. We've got simple statements and compound statements. Boom, we're done. Right? Remember we talked about game pieces. Remember we talked about the rules of the game. Well, we're going to talk about the rules of the game, but in terms of a worry, let's say that you might feel overwhelmed, just remember we've got simple statements and we've got compound statements. Now we need to talk a little bit more about what the compounding elements are, but I want to do so within the context of moving us in the direction of derivations. First, though, here let's go back to the example that I gave you a little bit ago, and then we're going to start to translate these sentences. So we had the following sentence. We had, if it's great milk, then it's milk that comes from happy cows. Right? So, simple sentences, it's great milk, it's milk that comes from happy cows. Our connective is the if then. And notice what I'm doing. I'm connecting up the if, the word if, and the word then, because the if then sentence, the conditional claim, right, has two parts. Notice also that the conjunction, Barack Obama was 44th and went to Harvard Law School, that also has two parts. Okay? The reason why I've drawn the blue line over the it's great milk is so that we know where to put our symbolization. Okay? So hold on to those. We'll come back to them. But first, let's talk about what these connectives are. Okay, so there are 5 connectives. There is negation, conjunction, disjunction. By the way, I'm hoping all this sounds familiar, that you're getting some clarity because you've already looked at this stuff, right? Remember, you don't want to wait till class to look at this stuff because we only have the once weekly meeting. It's not for very long, right? We can only hit our highlights. Conditional and biconditional. So the negation says it's not the case. And you'll see a couple of different symbolic notations, symbolic logic notations for the negation. There's the tilde, and there's also hook, right? I'll put a little comma here. Conjunction, there's dot. I think I also give you ampersand, and sometimes there's also the caret. The disjunction is almost invariably the wedge or like a lowercase v or a really tall v. The conditional is arrow. Sometimes there's a horseshoe. And then the biconditional symbolized with the two-way arrow or sometimes the triple bar. Okay, let's pull some things together. All right, so does it make sense to say, and I'm just going to use basically one word or a short phrase for each of these, but these are not the only ordinary English language words and phrases. But so does it make sense to say that when we're talking about negation, we're talking about not, we're talking about conjunction, we're talking about and, disjunction is or. We've already seen conditional is the phrase if, then. And the biconditional, we don't see it very much in our ordinary lives. We see it in the sciences and mathematics. But if and only if. I also want, this is super important for you guys to look at the discussion. And we actually, if memory serves, we also talk about this initially in chapter 1, namely the concept of sufficiency and necessity. Sufficiency and necessity is related to the conditional and the biconditional. So way back in chapter 1, one approach to talking about an interpretation of sentences, if you remember, is to talk about the propositional logic statement, right? So we talked about the joints of a sentence, right? So for example, if we say, so hold on just a sec, let me go back to the previous whiteboard. So do you see the Barack Obama was the 44th president and went to Harvard? I'm going to translate that. Okay, so Barack Obama was the 44th US president. Barack Obama went to Harvard. So Barack Obama was 44th, and I'm just going to do ... so I don't take time writing out the sentence again. And Barack Obama went to Harvard. Now, Barack Obama is the grammatical subject of each sentence. Remember, we translate our simple sentences with a capital letter A through Z. So you might think, oh, good. Normally, we would just take the first letter of our subject, our grammatical subject. The problem is Barack Obama is the subject of each sentence. If we use B for each, I won't know which B stands for was president and which B stands for went to Harvard. So let me use two different letters. So 44th president, how about I just say P for president, and Barack Obama went to Harvard, H for Harvard. And then my conjunction, right, goes in between. So note to self, conjunction, disjunction, conditional, and biconditional, they're like joints, they're hinges. They are what bring together two sentences. And those sentences don't have to be simple. They can be themselves compound, right? We'll talk about that more in a moment. It's just the negation that doesn't, properly speaking, serve as a hinge, but it operates on a given sentence. So remember we said, let me go back again. It's not the case that Obama was 46th. So here's another sentence. Barack Obama was 46th pres, right? So now I'm going to need another letter for was 46th president. The reason why I'm using different letters is, like I said, because we're talking about Barack Obama in each case, and we have to differentiate. We also use different letters when we're dealing with an argument because, again, we've got to distinguish one sentence from another. And when we get into a completely logically symbolized sentence, right, we don't know what the content is. Go back to your categorical logic, right? When you get, S, P's, and M's in a syllogism, guys, when you get S, P's, and M's in a syllogism, you don't know what the content is, right? You're just looking at form. Same thing here. So 46 U.S. president, I don't know, let me just use O. So Obama was 46th, and now it's not the case that Obama was 46th. So your negation always goes to the left of whatever is negated, right? And every other symbol is sandwiched, okay? Now, let me go back to the milk, right? So remember, if great milk, then happy cows. So Now I'm going to start with the if then. So here's my if then. If great milk, then happy cows. Now, why do we do this? Why do we go through all this trouble of symbolizing ordinary English sentences? Well, here's one answer, which you get after I get my last sip of coffee. One answer to why we symbolize, remember, we're interested in logical structure. That's all we care about. Logical structure, right? We do care about truth, obviously. We're dealing with truth. We're dealing with sentences that we say are true or false. But what we want to focus on is getting those sentences into a logical structure that accurately reflects the original, right? And then when we've got an argument, seeing first whether or not the argument is valid, and second, if it is valid, how we prove the conclusion, how we demonstrate the conclusion using rules. Okay? Example. And by the way, when I show you the last page of the appendix and you get the set of natural deduction rules, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I know some of these forms. We actually were working with these forms in chapter 2, or I see these forms, in daily life. So, example. If it's milk from, rephrase. I don't know what I'm doing. If it's great milk, then it's from happy cows. Now, we know that the commercial says, yep, it's great milk. Or here, let me make the sentences visually consistent. It's great milk. Okay, everybody, what follows? What must be the case? Thank you, Jake. It comes from happy cows. So first, I'm going to symbolize. So we said G stands for great milk. H stands for happy cows. If it's great milk, then it comes from happy cows. Hey, it is great milk, so it comes from happy cows. Okay, now pause. I'm going to save all these whiteboards because I want to go to, but bear with me because I'm not prepared. Okay, so hold on just 1 second. I'm stopping a share. All right, so we're on our course homepage. As a reminder, right, I post announcements. Those should get pushed out to you. I want to click on our textbook and workbook. Remember, practice is your friend. You want to practice as much as you can. Even if you're practicing, like, let's say you're doing some other work and you decide that you need to take a break from it, make your break be practicing logic. All right, so I'm going to open up the appendix. I'm going to scroll all the way down. All right, so let me try to get all of this in a single view. Okay, am I right, everybody, that you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rules? Just let me know if that's not the case. Or let me know that it is the case that you see it. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so take a look at the upper left corner. Do you see where it says modus ponens or MP, which is just the MP is the shorthand for modus ponens, which just means mode of affirmation. P arrow Q, P therefore Q. Now, the lowercase p's and q's and r's and s's are just our stand-ins. They're like the X, Y's, and Z's of the math world. They're variables. So lowercase p just stands for any sentence in the universe. It could be a simple sentence or it could be compound. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. When a sentence is governed by the conditional, or when a sentence is an arrow sentence or a hook sentence, and the antecedent, the left side of that arrow is affirmed, the right side follows. So read along with me. If it's great milk, then it's something that comes from happy cows. It is great milk, so it's something that comes from happy cows. It doesn't matter what content you put into P and Q. What matters is this, the form of the reasoning, affirming the antecedent, affirming the left side of the arrow yields the right side. Thoughts? Does this make sense?
Go over that like a little bit like more detailed.
Yeah, sorry, is that Hannah? Hannah?
Yeah.
Sorry, Hannah, I just called you Hannah. I'm sorry, I was trying to adjust displays. Okay, so first off, Hannah, are you comfortable with this? So look at every case of an arrow, and I want to read through them, and then we'll come back to your great question. So first, modus ponens, if P then Q. Modus tollens, if P then Q. Hypothetical syllogism, is everybody following with me? If P then Q, if Q then R, so if P then R. And sorry for the capital P there, that was my typo bad. But it doesn't matter, it's still the arrow, right? Constructive dilemma. If P then Q, if R then S. Okay, so has everybody read with me these P-Q relationships? And Hannah, does it make sense that we're talking about if-then statements or a conditional claim?
It makes perfect sense.
Good. So here's what each rule form says. Modus ponens, when I affirm or say yes to the left side of the arrow, the right side follows. Example, if I have 10 pennies, then I have 10 cents. Hey, look, I have 10 pennies. Therefore, I must have 10 cents. All right, let's look at modus tollens. If I have 10 pennies, then I have 10 cents. I don't have 10 cents, so I don't have 10 pennies. Hold on. Now, I know, Hannah, that you're looking for explanation. I'm giving you example, but I want to try it this way, so hold tight. All right, I hope you can see the text even though I've got a gray background. All right, so if I have 10, hey, Eddie, leave it. Sorry, if I have 10 pennies, I have 10 cents. I have 10 pennies, so I have 10 cents. And I'm using the conclusion indicator word so because I can't draw a line. Okay, now hold on because I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Okay. Next, example of modus tollens. If I have 10 pennies, I have 10 cents. I don't have 10 cents, so I don't have 10 pennies. Again, let me size this for you. All right. Let me do one more and then let's pause and talk about this stuff so that we can address your question, Hannah. If I have, I can spell, if I have 10 pennies, I have 10 cents. If I have 10 cents, I can buy gum. So if I have 10 pennies, I can buy gum. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. Okay, so what you're seeing in each case is an ordinary English example for each of those three argument forms. So here's how the argument forms work. Because each of these is a valid argument form or is a valid argument, this is important, they are used as rules to justify steps in a derivation. Okay? So, example. Okay, text. All right, so example. If I have 10 pennies, I have 10 cents, and I can buy gum. I have 10 pennies, so I have 10 cents and can buy gum, so I can buy gum. Teeny tiny little piece of reasoning. P.S. You folks planning on taking the LSAT for law school, you got to know this. You definitely want to work this. But anybody. I mean, presumably everybody's planning on doing some sort of graduate work, or even if you're not, this is the skill set that we're talking about is important to any work that you do. I mean, you and I are reasoning creatures. The better we can reason, the better things can go for us in all sorts of ways. So it's not like this is just for philosophy or it's just for law school, right? Okay. So Hannah, and everybody for that matter, right? Hannah, do you see in my second, in the most recent example, if I have 10 pennies, blah, 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 I can buy gum. Do you see how the first bit of reasoning reflects modus ponens?
Yeah.
Do you see how, now take a look, everybody, look at the simplification rule. P conjunction Q, therefore P. Right? So now look at that. Now look at the first sentence after the word so. I have 10 cents and can buy gum. If I have 10 cents and can buy gum, it follows that I can buy gum. Simplification. Okay, pause. I'm going to pause. Thoughts. How many people go, oh, okay, pretty good?
It sounds like DS is just hypothetical syllogism with like the actual like fabricated matter. Like, sorry, it's a little early. Wait, it's it sounds like DS. So the third example.
Yes.
Is a little more of like a here and now. Like I actually have it. Does that make sense?
Okay, let me try this. Are you ready? Are you ready to go back in time? Does everybody remember the example where I made the little kid cry?
Yeah.
You do, right? So hold on a sec. I think if I stop my share, I'm going to lose all of our examples. Does everybody have our examples? I mean, they're in the video, so you can always go to the video and grab them. But But does everybody have the examples they want? Because when I stop the share, it may be the case that the examples go away. I'll remember them, but still. Okay, here I go. All right, so did everybody remember how I made the little kid cry, right? Are you ready? Hey kid, I've got candy in this hand or this hand. It's not in this hand. And what does the kid do?
He picks the other hand.
And then what do I do?
Something.
So now the kid's crying, which is of course just a benefit, right? So the kid's crying, and what does the kid accuse me of doing?
Fine.
Right, because they understand disjunctive syllogism. If candy is in this hand or this hand, and it's not in this hand, logically, by elimination,
It's there.
right. Remember the other example? There are two other examples, but another example was something like, hey, Mitt Romney or Barack Obama is the 44th president of the United States. Well, Mitt Romney's not the 44th president of the United States, so it must be, well, here the hand is full. Barack Obama is the 44th president. The form is the same in either case. Kid with the candy or Obama Romney. Valid but unsound, valid and sound. Disjunctive syllogism. The form is the same. How many people go, oh yeah?
No, it makes sense.
Okay. Now, sorry, Brian, I just saw what you wrote about the color of the text. We've only got a few minutes, so let me just do this real quick. It might be helpful. Hold on. I'm going as fast as I can. Right? So now what you guys are going to want to do is this. You're going to want to have, gone through the text, gone through the practice, looked at the proof sequences, how those are set up. When you think about logic proofs, you're going to think about your old days doing geometry proofs. You're going to think about your old days doing long division. It's the same kind of idea, but we do in logic more than just the calculations. And more than just the rule, right? We cite where we got an inference and the justification. Okay, so we do this. If I have 10 pennies, I have 10 cents. Oops, sorry. I have 10 pennies, so I have 10 cents. Now, Brian, what I recommend you do is take the same example and map modus tollens onto it. Here's what you get, and for the sake of time, I'm just gonna do some copy pasting. I don't have 10 cents, so I don't have 10 pennies. That's modus tollens. Hypothetical syllogism. If I have 10 pennies, I have 10 cents. If I have 10 cents, shoot, I can buy gum. So if I have 10 pennies, I can buy gum, right? And then the example that I had given you just a little bit ago, where we did an actual derivation, looks like this. If I have 10 pennies, I have 10 cents and can buy gum. I have 10 pennies, so I have 10 cents and can buy gum. So I can buy gum. Okay? Brian, does that help a little bit with seeing what we were working on? So this is an example of modus ponens. Of course, Brian. This is an example of modus tollens. This is an example of hypothetical syllogism. And this is a short proof. Now, when we, I know it's right at time, so I don't want to keep you, but here's what you're going to want to focus on when you're thinking about a derivation. I have to put my argument into symbolic logic notation, and then I need to demonstrate the conclusion. So we'd have this. So I'm going to say something like this. If I have 10 pennies, then I have 10 cents. 10 cents. And I can buy gum. I'm using slightly different notation, right? I have 10 pennies. So, and notice the parentheses tell me that the conjunction sentence acts as a unit. So that's, if I've got line numbers, that's line 1, that's line 2. Line 3 comes from lines 1 and 2 by modus ponens. And then I can buy gum comes from line 3 by way of simplification. So that's the direction you want to go into, I should say. Okay, now, obviously, I'm going to share all this on the on our course site. It's also in the video that I will post today or tomorrow at the latest, but I'm going to go ahead and stop my share now. If you have questions, problems, confusions, don't wait. Come see me. Don't forget to, you guys have, if I understand correctly, a wonderful study group. Help each other, right? And come see me for help, all right? In the meantime, have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you this time next week. Thanks, everybody.